Welcome, and this is the Grassroots Education and Entertainment Network, your number one source of information, education, and entertainment. For honest, responsible, and dependable information, we stand supreme. To stay focused, inspired, and relaxed, choose green.
Bora boya bosheshe.
About all. Welcome again. Sorry a little delay, but there's so much to do in so little time. So welcome again to another Ifa discussions, Ifa Orisa discussions with Baba Malo, Iwa Lewa, and Ifa Bemiro, the phone show Orisa Bemi. All right. Today we supposed to be inviting another guest to deal with the issues in terms of further getting to understand Ifa and Ifa's contribution to us in society. Today we're going to invite our sister, but I will tell the link is correct before I may introduce her and then we'll put up her name. But you want to deal with psychology and Ifa, and in terms of dealing with the Ori, because we'll talk a number of things, and most time everything based with Ifa really deals with our mentality and how we think or how we approach things in life. So a scientific look at it will be in terms of psychology or psychiatry, in terms of dealing with certain inherited traumas, other social issues, and baggages where people may carry within their own conditioning in life in terms of the environment they would have grown up into. And we have a lot would have grown up in the local practices of our traditions in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as the evolving of new avenues and new opening. Because even in terms of the feminine communities, the Yamis, the Ajay, earlier we more used to look at the larger breast, the sukunya, the mandable, and all these things. But looking at the spiritual side of the woman and how they impacted us in terms of story, which really was really trying to put a moral perspective in terms of how we see it, because all our stories and all our folklores really was based on being morally or mentally correct in our actions and doing things in a balanced way, and how we would be affected by the spiritual energies that would be around us by how we would approach things in life. So I think we have to now look at Ori and Iwapele, Iwarere, or Moluabi in a more scientific perspective, in terms of scientific on the spiritual side of, because there's other stuff, we have a spiritual science. We does always, when you say science, we look at Western science, but I think we could term that we have a spiritual science in which we could apply things and evaluate situations within our own sphere. Baba?
Well, I mean, I have to agree with you. We need to take a very serious approach to understanding things in a scientific sort of a way. I think most traditions, in order to preserve the true scientific nature of things, has cloaked a lot of truth in a lot of myths and a lot of stories in order to preserve it and to make it interesting for the average practitioner of a tradition. However, deep within the myths, the stories, and a lot of what is told is the scientific facts and realities. But you would not be able to perceive this unless you peer very deeply into what is presented to you. I do not think our tradition is different from any other tradition in that sense only. But it's different in a barrage of ways.
Looking at Odu. So let me see if I can find it. Hold on. You know, when have everything there. But and this in terms of also looking at how do we take full advantage of the opportunities where in terms of look at education, the education for institutions in Trinidad and Tobago and the worldwide, and utilize those opportunity, those educational principles to work alongside in terms of understanding our spirituality. You know, because in sometime in making herbal medicine, we have to understand certain scientific principles of, I would say, what do they call it, physics, chemistry,
biology.
biology, you know,
Yeah, we
the
have to
basic
apply
science,
most of the sciences.
right? So all the sciences there about how do, you know, in terms of encouraging it into the spirituality or working alongside the spirituality. It's not necessarily say, oh, I'm traditionalist and I don't need to be educated. But in terms of if I want to be professional, have a professional title, you get the education, but you can still use that science because whatever you learn is your intellectual property. How do you utilize your intellectual property to benefit the community as well in the spheres of the community practice? You know, like yesterday in a session I was doing with Osign, and say one of the major aspects of Osign is the use of charcoal, taking a burning charcoal and throwing it into the Omiro. Now, people may see Osign dancing with fire and taking charcoal and throwing it. And so they're looking at the spiritual thing. Oh, look, he's biting hot charcoal. But no, it was an important remedy to add to your mixture that also has his ash in it. But, you know, we just go in the pharmacy and buy charcoal. So even the Western science even know the importance of charcoal in contributing to your healing as well. You know? So
Yes,
how do we put that connections of the intellectual properties, but also the scientific teachings into the wisdom or the practice of our spirituality? But keeping them separate, but still keeping them, they still will work together.
Well, one of the things is that our ancestors were deeply involved in a lot of sciences with a great degree of accuracy in terms of producing effective results. For us, modern science is only today discovering a lot of the age-old secrets that our ancestors possessed. Right? The last video that I saw earlier today was talking about the use of the carbon deposits that is found in our bodies that they refer to as melanin. It is now being used by modern science in computer technology.
All right.
So they are now discovering the
So
potential
the
and the
spiritual potential.
uses, yes, of it in technology today. So our ancestors were by far more advanced than what we actually witnessing today as part of our experience in terms of how far technology has reached.
All right. Because now we have to remember what we see as technology and science is really the Western research as to what is normal phenomena with us. Things we'll do normally, they will have to work up some calculations in terms of how did they get to do that? What essence or what mental thing they are using? How did we? They still want to know how they build the pyramids. So when you look at science, science is really asking questions about us that we don't really ask of ourselves until somebody asks of it, and then we now become interested in it in a sense. Because There are a lot of things within our own practice, simple as it might be, in terms just a simple song has so much of mystery, so much of wonder in it. When we look at ancient Kemetic teachings and we look at Orisha teachings, it's almost similar, but in terms of the same thing they're talking about, may speak it in a different context. But the science is the same. Remember, the land wasn't separated, colonialism and imperialism and all this thing. But the whole of Africa would speak the same language. When you have, like is Kenya, I can't remember, those who does travel, migrate with the cattle through the different regions. I forget which one is it, right? They would use the same cow dung to produce salt, to put salt to flavor their food. Now, we know about salt by going in the grocery. You understand? But they understand the importance of salt, and even when you look into Ifa, Ifa, they say Ayo is the ebo for joy and contentment. What is Ayo? Salt. It is a matter of salt and seasoning. Ayo is for joy and contentment.
Well, yes, it's for joy and contentment, but it also relates to having that bond and that cohesiveness with the other members of the community.
Right? So it's always to look at, while we may consider our thing as basic principles and basic cultural practice, there is a science, but we never put our own scientific name into it. But you have now people who look at it, they may give us a name, because a lot of things you're realizing that when you hear certain names that we would identify with and we think that would represent who we supposed to be, realizing, no, is that what they thought was your name, or that what they called you? Like I said, somebody in terms of the shouter, not thing, but the term shouter came out of the parliamentary discussion as to ban these people. You understand? So in terms of, so a lot of things where we would be expressing and think this is our expressive nature is by somebody not understanding our science, or in researching us would basically give a name to it, and that now becomes a name in which we may embrace, because remember, well, we technically still under imperialism, colonialism, and they call it forced democracy. Capitalism controls, right? Right? So, well, I think I don't know if we got on to the Queen Mother. That she have not responded.
She reached out to me, but I sent her the necessary information for her to come on board. So I'm waiting now for her to
all
come
right,
on.
right.
But she has all the required information.
Requirement, right. So one of the things in terms of, I'll take from Otura Ogbe, to wake early in the morning and give destiny due praise. Cast Ifa for the one who will meet with luck and fame tomorrow. It is I who give destiny its due when waking in the morning. It is I who will meet with luck today and tomorrow. It is I who gives destiny its due when waking in the morning. It is I who will meet wealth with wealth and fame tomorrow. Now, putting that in a scientific perspective, they say those are words of affirmations. All right? Now, in terms of how we would speak when we speak of Ifa or Odu Ifa, right, in traditional practice, most of our saying is a confirmation of what it's supposed to be. In terms of, if you like, look at the story speaks of what one wants to achieve. Who's the person goes for divination? Who's the priest that did the divination for the person? And the ebo was done, and the person will open their mouth and each will put a song in their mouth, and they'll start to dance and they'll start to sing. That dance and sing song would be a song of affirmation of a manifestation of the ebo being done and the results supposed to take place. So even if the act would not even take place as yet, we would already start to dance and sing the song of affirmation. We say, well, we sing an orin. We have received the blessing, we're going to have plenty of children. So a lot of things that basically we are investing in our time, the whole science is there in our practice. All those science, all those practices, all those little things in terms of motivational development skills are in our practice. It is now how do we harness that and really build it within our community, within our culture. So we don't have to divert the culture, but you build it in the society and that it could expand. Because now, if we don't have a mental understanding of our tradition, clearly when it comes to us, we have to look to some scientific advisor or some Western science to try to research and tell you what's going on with us. You know, today I was speaking with a sister who into the Pan fraternity, and she was given the experience. She had, some strange phenomena since Monday, and not what transpired even onto the week that. I say, well, did you look at Monday would have been 3 days before the full moon in its fullest, and today would be the 3 days after the full moon in its fullest. I say, how many people are spiritualists that even pay attention to the moon cycles? Otherwise, well, a lot of people would not have known that the full moon does really be so beautiful if it didn't have a blackout in Trinidad and Tobago. Even spiritual people. Because when they hear the excitement and all the expression of how beautiful the moon was, as the way that they now seeing the moon, if they had saw the moon, the last full moon in the month of December, they would have really know how beautiful it was. But it shows how disconnected. But somewhere in terms of, she was seeing this figure within the Panyan or in the space, and it took her out her zone. It had a. I said we have to remember in our history, Carnival was not a cultural event. Carnival was a traditional experience. And a lot of the elders who would have, a good few of the real elders of Carnival, they passed through within these last 2 years, some due to the pandemic and some due to other situations, would have passed. So a lot of significant spiritual things that would have been done for the Carnival season, because it really wasn't coming to the season, would have been missed. So the energies that would have flowed, the energies that would have come into play, that they come like their anniversary or their season is here, and we would neglect it. All they'll see, there's carnival portrayers. Carnival portrayers are not really true carnival practitioners, but these portrayers will just put on the costume and jump up on a stage because their whole essence of carnival is the competition. So if it didn't have no competition, you might even know it had calypso. And right now, nobody was really singing calypso, so everybody trying to make a quick song because, well, Carnival, they have a competition. But since November, we're supposed to done here because there's so much of issues to be sung about to awaken the people. We sort of already had over flux of songs that we don't would have know who would have been the monarch in the pod competition, or let's call it, right? When it is a carnival. But we don't already know who would have been the monarch, or we would already hear songs because this was a season would have been like say this last 2 years would have been Trinidad really in the 1950s, 1960s, even up to the 70s, where people wasn't really busy up and down, and a lot of people are still home, so a lot of people was already into the craft, just making songs, just singing, they're making the guitar, they're mixing the drum, and they're getting into the culture, even if it ain't a carnival, because Moko Jambi, I remember tell people, I never know a Moko Jambi on no stage,
All right, Baba, you're going to have to excuse me for a minute. Let me walk the guests through the process, right?
Yeah,
you go ahead.
Right? So when we look at Carnival, Carnival was a community thing. The Jab, the Jab Molassi, all the Moko Jambi would have been coming through the village, and then from the village, they move into this town or the city or the borough. So you'll see some Moko Jambi coming through the bag or a pan, and he drop in and you have to pay. Because if you're coming down the road and he coming up the road and you want to pass to go home, you can't pass. So the carnival was an experience that expressed some of the things that we basically went through in slavery, went through in terms of colonialism, and even in terms of community development, what helped us to grow in the community. You know? So it kind of shaped us to who we are today. And some would have just taken the essence of the portrayal and would like to portray it, but not necessarily with the necessary information or the necessary practices that goes along. You know, you say Bacchus was the celebration that we had was pay homage to Lord Bacchus, the spirit of carnival, by the offering of wine and revelry was his celebration. And this is why usually carnival would be celebrated and set off, or I say carnival into Ash Wednesday and from Ash Wednesday into the Easter cycle. So there was also a religious connection with carnival and the Easter celebration because they have to begin from Ash Wednesday. Now Ash Wednesday is just another carnival and it doesn't extend to the week. Okay? So just saying this in terms of sometimes when we look at our tradition or spirituality, it goes beyond just the religious and the sacrificial practices, but there's cultural, scientific, social, and other aspects of Ifa Orisa that impacts on our life, and is important that we as practitioners understand these things so we can know how we shaping our young ones as they come through. They are coming up in our community based on what we would have left for them for their good and development. Right? And one of the Odus, Iwori Ofun, is a Isimirin Jiga, Kasifa for Ori, while Ori was coming from heaven to earth. My Ori has found a comfortable place to sit. When a sheep finds a comfortable place, it sleeps and snores comfortably. This is really to speak of a peacefulness, and in terms of in asking that, hoping that we may find that peacefulness in our lives through our worship, even in worshiping our Ori, worshiping our Orishas, connected with our ancestors, because it's supposed to allow a level of peacefulness among us. Now, in terms of what you wanted to speak with our guests, in terms of peacefulness can only begin within ourselves, in our consciousness. So how do we recognize what could be our hindrances or what could be hindering us from really finding that peace in our beingness, finding peace in our worship, finding peace in our family togetherness, finding peace in our worship. So in terms of understanding self and understanding psychologies and other things that would have worked with us, being there to help us, how do we really connect to find the best results out of our practices? Right? In one of the creation story in which we would follow in Ifa Orisa, I think one mostly that is expressed as a good conversation and a good read would be the one produced by Chief Popula Sholagbade Popula, right? The president of the International Council for Religion, and a well-known writer. And one of the thing in his thing, it would have the question, what is considered to be the community? And his answer would be the community is everything that exists on the planet. In other words, it is not only our neighbor, our city, our region, the United States, Colombia, Nigeria, we call Trinidad and Tobago. The community is the planet and everything that lives on it. It is taboo to do something that only brings benefit to the individual. Also, we need to start doing things that not only bring benefit to human beings, but to the animal, plants, trees, birds, fish, and the earth, etc. Ifa says that after all the chaos that will happen, those that survive will be more intelligent, wiser, and they will know how to use technology and our natural resources to maintain balance in the world. These people are going to have a philosophy of life that is more communal than individualistic. They are going to know how to work, not only with communities where human beings live, but with the communities of the fish, the birds, plants, etc. This is the whole essence of Asuwada Enia. Asuwada Enia, like you say, like you say, a perfect human being, or one that is in balance, in tune with everything that surrounds us, our universe. And as practitioners of Ifa Orisa, we have to always be mindful that we came here to make the world a better place. We may not be able to change the whole world, but it will be befitting that even if we try to change the condition within our community, those that are connected to us, that we could make an impact. I say we eat the head of a rat bit by bit. Every little small piece will count. And there's the thing, as practitioners, we have to continue to thrive, to bring about the better condition. Because even for us, when we get older, we want to be older in comfort. And for the young one that have to come after, we also want for them to be able to comfortably practice and knowingly understand what they are doing and what they are worshiping into. We have to lay the foundation from our perspective at this period, coming out, connected to the past and stepping into the future. Those following after know how to take what we have given them from our past and carry it into their future. So there's a lot for us as the elders to really get to understand and put in a perspective and put it in a proper way that we could transfer it over. There was a lot of syncretism, a lot of hiding, a lot of secrets to be kept because there was so much thing we didn't want our children to know because they would tell the enemies. And, there was a lot of things that did not allow us to really fully understand our spirituality. And now, where we have a level of freedom, there are things we still have to find out, but now as we find out, we should be able and open enough now to transfer it to the younger ones would be able to understand it, and they could take it now to the level which you have to reach. Building a community, building where we will be connected to the earth, the water, the fire, the air, the birds, the animals, everything, the planet, where we'll understand our relationship to it, not really just worshiping Orisa, but understand a relationship with nature, because Orishas are elemental spirits. They are spirits of the environment. Ocean is fresh water, Yemanja sea water, Onile is the earth, Babaloa is the deeper earth. You have Olokun Senyade, which you say the ocean. We have Baba Ogun in the forest, Ocho Sea, Erile. So there's so much Orishas connected to nature, and in terms of relating with Orisa, we should have a better understanding and better connection with our natural environment, which is Mother Nature. We say Olokun has all the wealth, but do we as a community really extract the wealth? We see Exxon, Amoco, BP, everybody else is extracting the wealth for their benefit and may give us a salary to do the labor for us, but we are the one who say we are children and worshippers of Yemanja Olokun Senyade, where Ajay, her daughter, is the wealth that comes out of the sea. So in terms of how do we mentally, scientifically, culturally, and economically benefit from our tradition, it's firstly by getting our heads right, thinking correctly, understanding how our Ori resonates with the information we receive, and how do we transmit the information that we have onto others that seek it guidance from us who would have had an experience. So we could pass the experience of where we would have fallen short to the younger ones, and pass the experience as well, how we would have been successful to the younger ones as well, so they can be successful in their endeavors in their time of walking this pathway in which we walk. Right. So as while we are dealing with the technical issues, Ifa says, well, we have to be technical, we have to be futuristic, so we have to now learn how to deal with issues in the technical part of Orisa, of the world. So when we connect with those younger ones, we can basically be able to relate to them in a proper way that they could understand in their time as we would have understand how the teaching came in our times. Right? All right. All right. So as we are waiting the brother Ifa Bemiro, I will read another essay from Oriki, from Ori, Book of Ori, and speaking of Ori development and the period of ascension. If my prayer is not effective, if my prayer is not efficacious, I will start using my mouth. I will be shouting it without stop. Yes, Baba. Not yet. I'm not. I'm not here. No, seems like your
All right,
volume
can
not.
you hear me now, Baba?
Yeah, here now.
Yeah, I'm saying we're having some technical difficulties.
All right.
Right? So we will just move along with the broadcast.
All right. All right. So, as we're saying, from the Odu Ifa Oshetura, which is a Bire mi oja, bire mi omu, ma te nubole, ma ke ta. It says, if my prayer is not effective, if my prayer is not efficacious, I will start using my mouth. I will be shouting it without stop. You know, in terms of when we understand our practice, understand our what Ifa Orisa is about, in terms of and how Ori has an impact on our lives, sometimes you don't give up. That's saying, even if I ain't sure if I'm praying and I ain't sure if my prayer is really working, I was still shouting. I will still shout out. I will still speak out. Because one day, once with that effort, the teachers will come or the understanding will come to in its due time. A prayer with people is used in terms of as a major Ori prayer. Bí o bá máa lówó, bẹ̀rẹ̀ lówó oríire. Bí o bá máa ṣòwò, bẹ̀rẹ̀ lówó oríire wo. Bí o bá máa kò lẹ́wọ̀, bẹ̀rẹ̀ lówó oríire. Bí o bá máa láyàwó, bẹ̀rẹ̀ lówó oríire wo. Orí máa ṣe pẹ̀kúde, lòdò rẹ̀ ní mìbó, wá ṣàyè fún àwọn ọmọ mi di rere. If you want to have money, inquire of your head. If you want to start trading, inquire of your head. If you want to build a house, inquire of your head. If you want a friendship, inquire of your head first. Or in my head, please do not shut the gate. It is you that I'm coming to. Come and make my life prosperous. As we was going to speak to the ear about in terms of psychology and the Ifan psychology, it's really saying, are we mentally balanced or are we within ourselves, conscious of ourselves and how we could move forward? So you want to do business, you ask of your head. So first thing, did I ever study in terms of business structure? Do I know how to keep books? Do I know how to check money? So even inquire your head first to ask the basic question, but also in terms of evaluating yourself, am I capable of what I want to manifest? So once I ask the question, I can apply myself, so my Ori will bless me with that which it is we seek after. It will make our life prosperous. Baba. So,
Well, on the issue of Ori Baba, I mean, there are many Orikis, right? Or what we just call prayers, although it's not really the same thing. But
yeah.
I wouldn't go into that technicality right now. But there are many Orikis that we could be used, that can be used in order to address your Ori, right? But there are a couple of other more important and practical things that most devotees need to know and understand in order to produce the necessary results. Right? There is such a thing as Ori appeasement, right? Which is something that is a little bit on the technical side, right? But it is something that is needed in order to be able to get one's Ori to work with you, or for
Mm.
you to bring yourself into alignment
Yeah.
with the Ori.
Mm.
So I mean, even though we are giving the Oriki and we are giving some prayers, for want of a lack of a better word in this
Yeah.
case, um, these would also be very helpful, right? But to have someone either perform the suitable rituals or to have someone show you how to perform the suitable rituals would be more effective in
Mm.
producing results, you know?
Yeah. And this is the thing where, because other people, we have moved too deep into the belly of the whale in a sense where the practice is always like a client consultant relationship, you know, where yes, there are things where the priest could do, but there are a lot of things that the consultant, the counselor or the priest can direct people, so basically it become part of their life. You know, like I used to tell people, why are you waiting asking me when to do or share? Because I don't do mines. You understand? They say, well, no, I say, well, this is what you have to practice. If you don't understand the instruction what I've given, basically do it as basic as you can understand it and make your connection. Every 5 days, let me wash. It come like every day is take a bath. Every 5 days, if I should take a bath. You don't have to
Well,
wash it, but you clean out your Ifa and you connect with it.
well, Baba, while I totally agree with what you are proposing, right? I
Mm,
think one of the important things
mm,
that we need to do is we need to have clear guidelines and instructions
mm,
for practitioners so that they would know
mm.
what actually have to be done, right?
It's a basic standardization.
Well,
You
basic
know, that
standardization,
can
but
be a problem, you
training,
know.
training.
Mm,
My
mm,
emphasis is on
mm,
training because here is why.
mm,
Many persons get initiated,
mm.
right? And despite being initiated, they were never properly taught the way to use the implements that are given to them.
Yeah.
All right. And if you are an initiate and you cannot function because you were never given clear instructions, then that becomes problematic because you are not able to fully derive all of the benefits from utilizing the
Mm,
instruments that you were giving on initiation. You see,
yeah.
we have done shows repeatedly where we have spoken about
Mm,
initiation being a step,
yeah.
and beyond that step, there is also the need for proper practice. For one to practice, one has to be trained properly. For one to function, one has to be trained properly. And once that does not
Mm,
happen, then your functioning is going to be very much limited.
true.
All right. So
Yeah.
you would hear people talking about the importance of following the lineages and having the Baba Ifa. And I think
Mm,
those things are important. I do not underscore or attempt to invalidate the significance of having a Baba Ifa.
mm.
However, in
No, it is
Trinidad and
important.
Tobago,
Mm,
in Trinidad and Tobago, we don't have many of those. However,
mm,
we do have people who have been in the tradition, some of them all their lives. And they may not have an adept knowledge of all the stuff that is required on the Ifa side of the initiation. But there are people who follow pure Orisha tradition as it has been handed to them by the ancestors. And
Mm.
they, in turn, now can pass on this knowledge to the people who they train. So,
Yeah.
therefore, I do not say that Ababa Ifa is not important, but I also do give credence to the importance of those who have received the tradition from our
Mm.
ancestors and who
Yeah.
also in turn has to pass down that knowledge.
Yeah. Now,
So
what
I
are
am saying,
go ahead. Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Baba.
All right. What I just say, we I just try to be as honest and straightforward. I say if in my honesty I've been guided wrong, it's good that there's opportunity that somebody who might have the right answer could call me and tell me the right answer. Or they could do their own information piece and get the right answer. But if we were to look at sit with a Babalawo or Baba Ifa and bring some elders of our tradition. And they sit and they go through the processes of initiation, however, whichever side they choose first, and they realize, wait now, there are similarities and the basic principles stands the same. All right. Um.
Baba,
Uh,
I don't know. All right. I mean, I am, I just say whatever
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I need to say, right?
yeah.
There are many people who just get upset when I talk, people that
Yeah.
disagree. But you know what, Baba?
Mm.
I have no control over that,
Yeah,
over
yeah.
what other people
No, no,
want
you
to say or
can't.
think,
No,
right?
I that's say I can.
But I'm going
Okay.
to talk clear and I'm
Uh-huh.
going to address what you just mentioned.
Mm.
One of the problems we have, just like people have with other religions,
Mm.
is you have individuals who are involved in the tradition
Mm.
who are unwilling to part with particular information. And I
Yeah.
ain't just talking about people in Nigeria. We have
Yeah.
such people right
Yeah, we have
here
people here.
also,
Yeah. True.
right? For this tradition to function smoothly, and for this tradition to be able to pass on the valuable practices from one generation to another, people have to become a little more open.
Mm-hmm.
What you are suggesting, where we could have local shrine heads and local persons in
Yeah.
positions of authority, sit with the Baba Ifa, sit with the Babalaos and the Arabas, and learn the requisite
Mm.
skills so that in turn we could practice the tradition
Mm.
properly.
Yeah.
Until we have that, we're going to be in the same
Yeah.
dilemma.
No, no, that's what I said. If we really go to others, because others watch them fellas, watch certain people in their actions, and that's how I shake my head. But in terms of now you're saying in terms of train, learn and study, but I'm talking about if they just had conversation, you realize the basic principle, no matter what you use, we might use two songs, they might have about 20 orikis, two songs and how much dance to do the same thing. We will just do a song, throw the obi and get the answer. All right. Now, that's it. Ifa, if people go into Odu Ifa, the oracles of Ifa, and we share the oracles of Ifa, both Orisha, Baptist, spiritual initiate hours, they would understand. But wait now, if it's a way of life, I could do it. Because sometimes somebody instructions for people to go person and go home, take away this, away that, pong it and aid with it, and this is the Ricky City song. All right. But when you
Yeah,
talk
but
about
Baba,
initiation, I say
Baba,
if we go to identify the principle, yeah,
Baba, these
yeah,
things cost. No knowledge
hmm.
is going to be
Well,
given unless there is
you're going in at a different level.
some sort of economic
Uh,
exchange.
very
I
quick.
am saying at an
And
organizational
and this,
level,
mm,
at an organizational level,
mm,
if you have an organization
mm,
and it is associated to another
mm.
organization existing in some place else, it is the
Yeah, right.
responsibility
No,
of the parent organization to provide the required
the
training
facility. Yes, yes.
to facilitate their subordinate organizations so that all the organizations, whether they be here or another part of the world,
Yeah.
operate under the same rules, principles, and practices.
I say all arms of the major supposer. And that is an important thing in which, well, I think that is supposed to be discussed, supposed to be a discussion, supposed to be having soon. Because when we understand where we are going to and becoming a registered organization, becoming a structured body, we must be able to be sure what principles we stand upon, what practices we are aligned to, and what makes us to identify us as a follower of this such, and this is not confused with the other. And I think what you're speaking in terms of institutions, there have to be some very serious negotiations and discussions amongst institutions in terms of growing. Because there's so much different linkages or branches in our African spirituality. I ain't going Ifa yet. When you look at African spirituality, there's so much linkages and different branches, and all has a certain structure. But now, if we come into Ifa, Ifa also has linkages, practice, and in Ifa, there's so much different branches and different orders. And I think if it is as we are practitioners and we have a governing body, I think one of the major things, because this I think supposed to be established in each of the regions that we have, we're supposed to have a training facility or training center in terms of training the principles of the tradition. Now, I know if they had settled in terms of, they say some in the homeland, there are two branches or two different arms, but I believe all will be still have to come under the same principles of Ifa. One deals with the religious aspect only, and one deals with the institution of temples and churches. So those that deal with temple and churches, I think, have an important role in terms of outlining structures, but also allow us, because in terms of what we're saying of our tradition and our practices, there are significant elements that we have to preserve that will identify us as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago or as people in the diaspora. So I think in terms of our relation, we also have to be able to properly structure and identify our processes. So when it comes to the finality in what we will do in our space, in align with our affiliated bodies, we must have an element of essence in it. Because I think, let me look at Brazil in terms of the traditional way, they will have a collaboration with the West, with the homeland. But when you see the dressing of the gods and the deities, they have their standard. So when you watch it, you say, oh, that is Brazil, that is Candomblé. Or that, you understand? So that way, say we in Trinidad have to set a certain standard too, because I think when everybody has reached a level, we still tying a piece of cloth around the head and the waist. It might be significant, but I think we could still evolve to something even greater or something more significant. But it's important that we're supposed to be able to hold some of our principles, but we also have to be able to clearly be able to define it, not north saying this and south saying that, and in terms one voice. Well, I see getting some technical problem again.
No, well, that happens every now and then. You can't get
so I say,
away
well,
from
we
that.
don't 2 minutes. So
Baba, you have proposed quite a few things that are absolutely necessary. But at the same time, it may appear to be insurmountable.
no, well, that is
to accomplish these things.
No, well, that all what I just propose is already in my master plan. I just have people, I ain't just jumping to try to get an idea, but everything is already there. When I always have some file with some project, it just when the opportunity come out, okay, I'll discuss this one today. Because even where we see this Congress, Well, I said 2013, I had already designed a Ifa Orisa National Congress. But as we look at society, I just brought it down from regional to this now. Then I had Ifa Orisa Community Congress, where I brought it within my community. And look where it expanded, that I'm now a regional representative. So I now can still now pull out the Ifa Orisa Regional Congress master plan and just put it forward. You understand? So it always has a plan. And I always say we always have the plan. And two things, as I say, most time we don't work with a plan, and most time a lot of us don't have dollar signs to work with the plan. So even if we say we
Baba,
this idea good.
Baba,
Yeah.
dollar sign is always the bottom line, but
Yeah.
a lot
but
could be done without dollars.
mm-hmm.
Believe what I'm saying to you.
No, it can be
All right.
done. Yeah. It
Now,
can be done. Mm-hmm.
with virtual technology,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the trading that we need to be able to address some of the practices here could be done virtually.
Mm-hmm.
So it means we don't have to find money to fly somebody here.
No, not in terms of that aspect. You know. I'm talking about when we look at a plan, you must have a budget. Okay, this is the budget word thing. Now, either cash or kind, because somebody said we need a laptop. Somebody can say, okay, use my laptop. So cash or kind, but it must always have, because we have to also be able to put our what we put in forward. Because if you want a grant, I've been filling out grants, and the most time when I go to church after, so how much all I think, and I have to do the calculation because they never thought they had to put a dollar value to applying for a grant. How long all I expect the grant, the project to run for? How much persons all they will have? How much will be the administrators? All these would be still to be applied to put together in the proposal for the grant, because now you have to say how to express your plan in dollars and cents for them to give you the grant, right? So this was in terms of putting dollar signs alongside your plan. So in terms of when you're asking, now I looking at a property, $3 million, I say, for a headquarters temple. You say what? Well, really the billion is only 200,000, or I say 2.2 million is for the property, land, house, space, everything. So they say, why 3 million? I say, so when they get the property, what are we going to do? We have to fix the temple, adjust the building to suit, furnitures, equipment, all these things. So the budget. Now that is not looking, now it's TT dollars, but it's for the European market and the American market grouping to do the funding. And so when they go there, they have to be able to say why it is they need so granted or sponsored for that. So I'm just saying, when we do a plan, we still supposed to be able to put some form of dollars and cents sign to the plan at what will it cost? What is the economic value or the financial value? That even when we may even have something to present, we should be able, because we had to start to think economically as well. We had to have that as a backup. If it is we can't get everybody to come out and contribute, we have to say, okay, how much could we pay some members to come to contribute? You know? So that's why I say the importance of always having a plan, but always have alongside it a budget. All right?
Okay.
Because the project that hold up for the while is because I had my budget and people not working with my budget. So when time come, they say, well, we had to hold up because all go above my budget, because all I think that I'm supposed to just give, you know. But no, we work with our budget. This is what we have, and we want to, if we say we're going to do 25 boxes, and the budget is to cater for 25 budget, but all it, because they cater for 25 budget, all they only make 5 today, and 2 the next day, and 3 the next day, but we have to get 25. The budget would already been dissipated before you even get the 25, and then now you have totally crashed the whole project. You know, but it's for our people to be serious, and then we have to understand people, we have to be reality in times, unless we can create, that was tell people, I'm certainly after mining chicken for myself. I was telling people, like mine chicken, like I'm mining for myself. but they're saying we have to be able to sustain ourselves in order for us to allow ourselves the freedom to do the work that we have to do in terms of building the community. So nobody had to ask for if they could get a day off to come to do something important for the community. But they know they don't need to ask because they should be working for themselves and there's something to sustain them. All right. There are certain investment projects outside of Trinidad happening for the people in diaspora, trying to get some more information to share within the group. But we have to be able to even invest in things outside that other groups are doing for the diaspora, because we are the diaspora. We are the people who are looking to connect back home. And we are not the only group. It are people just next door to Tobago, right in Grenada, right in Barbados. Barbados even took a bigger step. Right? If you watch Maya Motley, she took some dirt from Barbados and carried to the homeland and brought back, I know she bring back some dirt from there, but she carried the bones and you understand, to represent. She carried some of us who could not have reached back and carry them in the death back to Barbados. Back to Ghana. You one direct flight, you travel to Barbados and go to Ghana. So there are people who not even say, well, they're wearing African clothes and they're giving African name, but they are doing work for us in the diaspora that we have to start to now connect with them and walk the journey with them. Invest with them. Let them invest with us. I saw Marsha Montano did a beautiful advertisement in terms of environmental. I said, where's our Orisha people connect? Because we are nature worshippers. We are environmentalists. We should be link with him to bring a nice song. Because he does bring some nice music, some nice showing some Orisha song, some Orisha drum into his song. Because you get Cock Tok Tok man, you get Shell man, you get Whistle man. Time he get a little Orisha Shango man. No, you understand? Because now by his contribution, because when I tell people, let me connect with people who are out there, but they're not necessarily in the practice, but subconsciously, they are speaking what we are speaking. They are saying what we're trying to say. But we are saying it right in Nepali. And we feel, well, I made an important speech. African people, we have to unite this, that. And I feel, yes, I would have touched hearts in Nepali. But when there's a big star, song star, or a big poet, or a big actor is speaking what we are speaking out there, but you're not connect to us in our practice, is we to, brother, I heard your speech. I like what you're saying. And we also have the same idea. Can we merge? We even need you to come. You ain't bound to put your money, but just express a line from us and mention we name them. You know what I'm saying? Open an avenue that people could watch and hear us. Even the people in our homeland who might not pay attention to us really, but they hear, well, I'll call him Amy dead. Michael Jackson speak about Trinidad and jumping up in a parley in Trinidad. Everybody go now want to come to look at a parley and see what intrigued him that he could mention about it. How do we market? How do we really promote ourselves? Not really throwing ourselves as no thing or no big advertising board, but how do we really get out there and market yourself? Because a lot of white people use black people to reach far. When I say there are people who has been connected to Orisha, but they don't understand it fully in the spirituality. But they would have some white groups that are connected with Orisha, and they would have brought those people to do just a little lecture, just a discussion, and those people get affiliated, and you saw those grouping grew by just having this person. I kind of move more serious into Orisha practice when I used to listen to Ial Vansan. And you used to have Orisha priestess, Ial Vansan. So you said, you went into it, did you wash your hand? But it was really speaking in terms of when you walk away from something, you use the toilet, did you wash your hand? You walk away from something that wasn't benefiting your life, did you wash your hand? So in terms of, I put it, I wash my hands from following the tradition to go nowhere. Following the practice with how they say it should go, and it is not taking us nowhere. I wash my hand from that. So when I see opportunities or things that are to really take us there, yeah, I will embrace it. I will follow it. Because there's people who look for that. right?
Baba, well, there are lots and lots of things that the community need.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the duration of time that I've been involved in the community, I have seen a lot of steps towards progress.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't say that is not enough because everything happens within its time.
Yeah, but
Frame.
listen, but you also made a lot of contributions towards that progress too,
Yeah,
eh?
and
You always
still
tell yourself out.
we need to continue
Mm.
pressing.
Yeah,
A lot of people don't like me for my contribution, because I
yeah,
step on a lot of toes.
yeah. Now, well,
Yeah,
the
and
others would,
I work a lot of nerves. So
yeah.
for the things that has been
Mm.
accomplished, we have to keep pushing.
Yeah. Mm. And that is important because just with me, I just said, well, I just say people, I like to mash shows, but I like to say sorry. So it's really tell you, you have to work faster. No, you understand? The load heavy. Why you walking slow and taking time? We had to walk faster. So I'll mash it to his pie. So, well, let me move quick because if I'm moving slow, this man only mashing
You
my
know,
toes. You
my
know?
thing is one of the things is that
Mm.
I have made specific commitments to trying to teach what I know. There are
Mm.
people who will forever say
Mm.
that you're not qualified to do this, you're
Mm.
not qualified to do that. And the people who say these things
Mm.
are normally the people who are qualified but are not doing enough.
Yeah. Well,
Right? And
go.
I'm not saying this to be
Mm.
offensive.
No, no, no. You're
I'm not
speaking the
saying this
truth.
to step on anybody's
Yeah.
toes. But I'm saying this
Mm.
simply to say that the work that has to be done,
Mm.
it would only be done by those who are willing to work.
You do. You who have the
And it's
political will.
that is
Once
the
people
bottom
don't have the
line.
political will to do what they have to do, you can't vex with them. But I have the political will. So I will do what I can do. Now, what you have spoken is the truth. A lot of people who would say you can't, won't do, but they are based, most of them are based on the academical and the physical, what you call it, authority in which they operate by. But you have to remember,
Baba,
there's a spiritual authority.
I am not even sure it's academic.
Well,
I'm not even sure it's
yeah.
academic.
But when I say academic, they were taught this, and it is that. Now, for me, if I go to the structural way to be a babalawo, I have to know at least let me say two of the 60 major do at least four do straight from the first four do, right? But if I take the four basic four-line Odus or Essay Ifa from, let me say, Ifa Oracle from Nimak and Ipega, and I learned that I have, then I could qualify to be a Babalawo. Right?
Baba, is that
But,
Baba?
no,
Baba,
I just
Baba.
made that. No,
Baba, listen to me. Listen to
uh,
me. Stop that. Don't even don't go
uh,
there because let me say this to you.
mm,
It takes a lot more
mm,
than reciting SAE first
yes, I know that.
to make a
I
Babalawo.
know that. But most
So
of the utterances that you have to know at least how much Ifa. But there's so much more, right?
again.
But
A lot of the critics
mm,
are simply people who does nothing for the community.
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sorry, it
Mm.
sounds bad, but it's the truth.
It is the truth, it is the truth. Now, what I think, as I say, we have to, as I talk in progressing, I think we have to at least identify one of a collection of Ifa oracles or Ifa Odu Ifa or Lodu Ifa to be as a standardized for us as a community to use basically as a community. Right?
Baba, but I think things like these are going to come
Mm,
because as
yeah.
long as we have our ICIRTT,
Yes.
right, there are functions for various departments
Right.
for
And that is,
writing books, for
mm,
putting together literature,
mm,
for monitoring
mm,
activities such as rituals, like we're going to put together the spiritual council.
yeah.
They're not going to be there to dress up and look nice.
No, I know there's work.
That's not what they are there. They are going to be there for.
Well, who think that I sorry for them? But it a work. But that's what I'm saying. As within the region, I think it's
Baba,
important.
repeat what you just say. Who thinks so? You sorry for them,
Well,
Baba. Let me say this, right? I am not, and let me say, I'm saying this as a practitioner, because I am not on the executive of the ICIRT, right? But I will say that I have worked very hard, right? Together with other individuals, not me alone. Together with other individuals, there were many sleepless nights for us to reach where that organization is today.
Yeah, remember you're part of the steering committee and those have been doing the work.
So my commitment is not to get no position. I don't want no position. So for all the critics who've been saying things about who have said stuff to that extent, I'm not interested in any position. However, I am interested in seeing the progress and the development of the Ifa Orisa community of Trinidad and Tobago. And that commitment I will always have. And however I can contribute towards that, I'm always going to make an effort to contribute towards the progress of the community. Because
this is what it's supposed to be. Even if I'm not in the executive, I have to make sure that it is successful. Even if I don't have a position, it's supposed to be successful. Because as a practitioner, one, also for a person who, let me say, it is to represent our melanated. That might be a little racial or in that thing. Because we are Indian.
Baba, no, you're not being racial.
Right. But in terms of our community,
nothing is wrong with having ethnic pride. Everybody else has it, Baba.
Yeah, Black History Month. So we tune. But it's making sure that there's something in which even our young Black youths, male and female, that there's something solid in which they could gravitate to, in which to really find a way forward. And they don't necessarily they have to submit themselves to anybody, but they could basically just be guided by the words of Ifa. Just as you could pick up a psalm book and read a psalm, you could listen to the essays, listen to the teachings of Ifa.
Well, Baba, I am. You could call me a hopeful person. You could call me an optimistic person. But I see in the future that all those things are going to come as long as we have people who are committed to moving the community forward. I'm an optimist. I'm sorry, but I see in the future we're going to have the songbooks, we're going to have the educational institutions, we're going to have the financial institutions. Yeah, we're building one block at a time.
One block at a time. And I was saying, everyone, one person don't need to bring it. Everybody can make a contribution towards one of these things happening. And I think we have to have that confidence, because if we put our faith in Ifa, all will be well with us. It is a mantra, is a saying in Ifa. If I had known you all the time, all things would have been well with me. And this is what
I hope that could become the mantra of every devotee in Trinidad, and they would apply that to their life.
No, and this is what we have to push. We have to give them something to say. We have to give them, because not everybody exposed to the literatures of Ifa. That's why I just try. I gave a copy. Everybody I get a copy. I say, well, here, I'll take it. But I just tell them, I say, well, nobody offer me a copy. So I say, well, when I give you, I expect you to also make a copy, share it with somebody, and somebody go share it. And somebody say, Baba, I got a nice book with some prayers, and I read it. I say, hey, thank you, I'll take. You understand? Once I reach back, I know people is sharing it.
We can't be selfish. While I agree with you, you have to remember there is such a thing as copyright law. Well, careful what you're encouraging people to do.
No,
encourage people to secure a copy, but let them purchase it.
Well, and as we're talking that, I think we as advocates, if it is, we have to order the book direct from the people and get it easily accessible at affordable prices, even if for shrines to buy the book.
I
think this is what I think. When
Baba, They'll accuse you of being a freelancer, like how I
Yeah.
was accused of being that. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. You're trying to contribute, but
Uh,
you're not a freelancer.
yeah,
That's all
freelancer.
right.
Yeah.
That is
But
okay.
but but that is what we have to do. We have to make okay, if we say Iwe Ofun Odu Ifa, Iwe Odu Ifa is the book, or Ayosa Ilami, we order from the publisher 2,000 books. And make those 2,000 books affordable even for at least for 2,000 shrines
Agreed,
or
Baba.
temple.
Absolutely
Right?
agreed.
So
Agreed.
the short Sunday
Agreed.
service or wherever they service, they have from the scripture that we could read, and everybody could feel comfortable. So I could leave south and go north and be in a service and hear the Odu, and I could relate it because we all using the Ayo Salami or Iwe Ifa or the Book of Benin or whichever Ifa Dida, and you show well. You know, I know we have a particular book using in the ICR, but in terms of make it accessible so it be a conversation general and everybody could be speaking the same language and no confusion. All right. So I think we have reached the time. So,
Yeah.
all right. So I think while we continue this discussion and even go deeper in our next discussion, I'd just like to advertise, I think the 22nd of April or the 4th of April. Well, I forgot the date, but April, we want to celebrate the divine womanhood, you know, and recognize, some will call say celebrate Gala Day, but I don't want to take away people who have been doing Gala Day and they have the costume and they use the procession. But in the same aspect of recognizing the feminine energy, and I think in April, I want to think that before the closing of the year, so at least some of the things that are important to our community will be celebrated, you know. So any closing
All right.
remarks?
No, well, with that, I would like to say Odabo, and to all the viewers who are interested in learning more about Ifa, you could contact myself or Baba Mello, and we would gladly direct you to where you can go to have some sort of teaching classes or attend events where you could be educated more on Ifa Orisha. And with that, I would like to say Odabo.
Oh, double. All right. All right. Oh, well, no. All right. Well, I see the air was trying to